What's up, friends? It's Haley, aka Bird, and you are tuning in to the Give 'em the Bird podcast. This podcast is all about challenging what it means to be healthy and fit. It's about celebrating sustainable behavior change and non-scale victories. And most importantly, it's about giving the bird to the diet industry and societal expectations of body size. Why? Well, because at the end of the day, you have an entire life to live that does not require your body look a certain way. Thanks for tuning in. Now let's give 'em the bird. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of GTB. My name is Haley, aka Bird, and I'm so excited to have you here. On today's episode, you're going to get to hear my conversation with Kira Onysko Jones. Kira is a certified personal trainer and holds a Bachelor of Science degree in exercise science. She entered the fitness world during the days when skinny teas and bikini competitors dominated social media. Because of that, she spent several years never feeling satisfied with her appearance, chasing the workout and eating habits of what she thought were her healthy role models, healthy quote unquote. And as a result of that, she developed disordered eating habits and a terrible relationship with her body. She now dedicates her career to teaching people how to enjoy exercise without letting it consume their lives and how to fight back from the constant messaging online that tells us that our bodies aren't good enough. Whew! I was so excited to chat with Kira. Again, love who she is, love her energy, and the way that she shows up on social media. She, as you will hear, is another Canadian. That's right. I'm finding all these good Canadians to come on the GTB podcast. But her and I talk a lot about, what it means to get fit without feeling restricted. And she shares a lot about her journey with health and fitness and really how her idea of what it means to be healthy and fit has changed over the years. And I think that her journey was at least extremely relatable for me, but I think a lot of other people will be able to relate to it as well. We talk a little bit about, getting into fitness or how to tackle fitness and get started with it in the new year. And then she also tells us about what her thoughts are on exercising or continuing to work out over vacation. I wanted to chat with her about this because the day before, I think the day that we recorded, it was the day after she got back from like a 3-week long vacation / honeymoon. And I just wanted to hear kind of what her thoughts were on working out over vacation. And she really gives a good look into how you can know if you should move and exercise or not while you're taking a vacation. So an amazing episode. If you don't already, be sure to go give Kira a follow on Instagram. You can find the link to her Instagram page in the show notes. And while I have you here, feel free to head on over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and subscribe, share, leave a review, do all the things. I would love to have that free 99 support from you. All right, let's get into my conversation with certified personal trainer, Kira Onysko Jones. Hello, Kira. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we were just chatting about your long ass vacation / honeymoon in Mexico.
Yes.
And now you're like all back in the cold and back to work. How are you getting back into the transition of things?
I just like to rip the Band-Aid, really. Yeah. I find that to be the best way. Yeah. But no, it was really nice to be away. Now we're going like right into the holidays. So I basically have a few days home and then off to hang out with family for the holidays. So it makes it a lot better that I'm not going to be stuck in minus 40 for too long.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's minus 40 right now?
Well, it can get there. It can get there for sure. Yeah. Wow. It's been more of a mild, like minus 25. So that's been more manageable.
Yay. So where are you at? Because you're in Canada. Where are you at in Canada?
I'm in Canada. I'm in like northwestern Ontario.
Okay.
Like northern Canada. A lot of trees, a lot of
beautiful.
Just wide open space.
That's nice. So I live in Iowa, which is not that I'm not familiar at all with Canada. So I don't expect you to be familiar with the US, but almost like smack dab in the middle of the country. And right now we're supposed to have like tons of snow and everything. But 2 days ago, it was 75 degrees and there were tornado warnings. Like So bizarre. So weather right now, to know that you're in like -20, like mild -25, and we had
Yes.
these like record highs and record weather. It's just, yeah, I would love to go somewhere where it's just, what to expect with the weather, but that's nowhere right now. I feel like.
Just keeping us on our toes.
Yeah. Oh, Mother Nature. Yeah. Well, before we get into talking about, non-diet fitness and all the things that you do, tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, so like we were just talking about, I'm in Canada. I was just in Mexico for 3.5 weeks for my honeymoon / vacation. And we're actually going back there in February for another 6 or 7 weeks. So our plan is to kind of spend the majority of our winters there due to the previously mentioned frigid temperatures. Yeah.
I love it.
But I work all online, which I'm sure we'll touch on. So that's really not a problem for me. And that's something that like we've planned to do for quite some time is to be traveling and kind of doing the working abroad thing. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I think that is an amazing idea. I love that the online work allows you to do that, like allows you to pick up and go anywhere as long as you have a decent, internet connection. That's great.
Yeah. And not too many government induced travel restrictions.
That too. Yeah. That's important right now. Yeah. Yeah. So tell me more about the, how you got into personal training and like online coaching. Did you go to school for it? When did you get certified? All the things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was very active, like for all of my life, pretty much. I was a gymnast growing up. So movement and fitness has always been a really big part of my life. And like many people do when they stop organized sports, like when they're in high school, they kind of like fall out of fitness a little bit and fall out of exercise because you're so used to working out, like because it's a sport and you have someone, telling you what to be doing and like how to practice and all those things. So I think what's really common for like late teen kind of age is that you're like, oh, I don't really know how to work out. So you kind of like go to the gym, see what other people are doing. For me, and still now for a lot of people, that meant going online, going on Instagram. This would have been like 2010. So there's still Instagram, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
All the way back then.
That seems so long ago, but I'm like, oh yeah, that was
that. I've been on this app for 12 years.
I know. Yeah.
Like the anniversary no one wants.
Yeah.
So I was looking on Instagram, for motivation, tips on how to get fit, what to be doing for workouts. And that's kind of when everything started going very downhill for me. But of course, I didn't realize it at the time. So just to paint a picture, back then, the landscape of fitness was very much like bodybuilders, fitness models. I mean, of course, we still have these things now, but it was very, very much more you work out to look a very specific way. Huge emphasis on like the clean eating, tracking everything that you're eating. And again, unfortunately, we still see this, but I feel like back then it was so much more normalized and there absolutely was not this amazing community that there is now of people who are rejecting diet culture and all of those things that can affect us so negatively. So little old me just looking online, seeing what to do. Who else was I following? Tone It Up. I don't know if you're familiar.
Cringe. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Idolized them.
Yeah.
And it's just like makes me shake my head now as your reaction too. But you just don't know any better.
No,
you know what I mean? And at that point, I had been in gymnastics for so long, but I really didn't have that much knowledge around fitness. So you just do what you think is the right thing to be doing. And you're following these role models who you trust and who you are believing will lead you in the right direction. So following all of those things, very much working out to burn calories, to look a certain way, always trying to be leaner, and just like, it makes me so sad to think of it now, because it's like, so many people have this where it's like, you were already so small. Like, how did you think that you needed to, you know what I mean? But it's just so, it's body dysmorphia is what it is, and what that perpetuates. So it was like probably a handful of years that I was really, really strict with the way that I was eating, exercising. And again, like not really understanding how it was negatively affecting other areas of my life. You just have this idea in your mind that to be healthy and to be fit, you need to be really careful with what you eat, and you need to be really careful of managing your weight and exercising the right way to tone and burn and do all of those things. And of course, like it was a very slow process of slowly realizing that these things weren't serving me. And I think one of the biggest first things that really started to like turn the lights on a little bit was how it would affect my just social life. Like it really makes you retreat from going out with friends, trying new restaurants, going out for drinks, doing anything that you think is going to negatively impact your progress and staying on track. Like there's so many, I'm doing the bunny ears for people who are listening, but that was a huge fear of mine, because you think like, oh, well, I'm working so hard in the gym, I don't want to ruin it by eating fill in the blank. And we know that now to be such a toxic mindset to have. So again, like very slow process and trying to unlearn all of those things. But I think I just started to realize that, I'm missing out on so much. I'm not able to go out with my friends. So much guilt as well, like always guilty. Like, and back then too, like cheat meals were like a very huge thing. Like you eat clean, again, bunny ears, 6 days of the week. And then one day you're allowed to have a cheat meal or cheat day or whatever it is. And like with that mentality, already you're calling it a cheat. It's already in your mind that this is a bad thing that you're doing. And then it just completely changes your relationship with food. So I ended up going to school for exercise science. And when I started my degree, I was still very much in like a diet culture, like toxic fitness mindset. So it took me probably like the majority of the degree to get out of that.
Wow.
And again, like similar to, you'll hear a lot of dietitians talk about like how their education is still like so far behind. There's still a lot of weight stigma perpetuated in those programs, and the very same is for exercise science. But what was really helpful for me around that time is that I got out of doing like pure gym workouts where you're like on the elliptical for however long, trying to burn however many calories. Then maybe you do some light weights to like finish it off because you don't want to get too bulky. Again, like big eye roll there. I just like hate myself from back then. It's fine. But like I mentioned, I was in gymnastics. So I was really interested in starting CrossFit because I like the idea of like doing the pull-ups and doing the handstands and like lifting the weights. And so I ended up joining a CrossFit gym, actually the very first year that I started my degree. And in a lot of ways, that was very helpful in starting to get me away from that mindset of you only work out to look a certain way, you only work out to burn calories, because there's no mirrors at those gyms. So that was very helpful. Much larger emphasis on what your body's capable of. I was really starting to enjoy exercise again, because again, what's really common for people who are solely trying to lose weight, solely trying to change your body, is that you're definitely not necessarily doing exercise that you enjoy. You're doing what you think is going to be the best method to get your desired results or whatever. So that was really taking me back to like my, inherent, like what I love to do for movement. But at the same time, there's a huge culture in CrossFit around eating a very particular way, very strict, the paleo thing, macros, weighing, things that are super diety behaviors that were continuing to hold me back from really accepting my body, accepting peace with food, all of those things. So what ended up happening, and again, like I wasn't really aware of what was going on at the time. It wasn't like, you guys are dieting, I'm going to go away now. It was like, it was like, oh, I like the lifting the weights part of the CrossFit. I don't like running the laps part. Like, don't put me down for cardio. So I joined an Olympic weightlifting only club. And that was really like the final kind of key in really helping me realize how messed up my relationship with food and exercise was. So we were doing exercise that we all really enjoyed. We loved seeing what our bodies were capable of, pushing ourselves. But then we'd also have, the members would bring in like a new pack of Oreos that they had seen and wanted people to try, or they would bring different treats in. And it was really the first time that I was able to realize that enjoying exercise and enjoying movement and also enjoying food can coexist.
Wow.
And not have to be at odds with each other. So that was really, really helpful in helping me understand like how wrong I had been and like how far I had been pulled from things that would actually make me very happy. So that's kind of my story in a very long.
I love it though.
But then the journey of then becoming more anti-diet is a process in of itself too. And again, like school really messed me up because of that. Like we had classes on BMI and all of these things. And, you're really having to do so much unlearning and there's a lot of resistance there. So while I was improving my relationship with food, learning that I can exercise without having to lose weight or change. Well, it was the weight piece went first, but there is still an emphasis on like, okay, well, it's okay to not weigh yourself, but you should also still be managing the way you look, if that makes sense. That was totally my mentality. Yeah. Like it was still like, oh, well, I'm not weighing myself, but I'm looking at myself in the mirror all the time and comparing my body to old pictures of myself to see how my muscle progress is going. Like there was still this very large emphasis on this is what I should be looking like. Yeah. And that took time to get away from.
Yeah. I can really relate to the whole school. Like even when I went to school, I studied health promotion. So under the same umbrella as exercise science, but it's more like promoting health in other ways. So like I wanted to get into wellness coaching, but I took a lot of the same classes, like exercise science classes. So we had like a metabolic exercise testing and prescription class. And I remember that's when my mind started shifting a little bit from weight to then body composition. And I think that can be just as troubling, right? Because it's like, oh, I don't care what I weigh, but I care what my body fat is. And I want it to be as low as possible. And I think that for me, like, I think it's great that you were able to start at least noticing without realizing you were noticing during your degree program, because I think for myself, and I've heard from other folks too, again, like thinking about dietitians, that I think my schooling only like exacerbated the issue for me, like almost made it worse. So it's great that you were able to kind of becoming aware without really becoming aware during the process of getting your degree.
Yeah. And what was actually, and then on another side, on the flip side of that, I am so, so grateful for that degree, because in a class that I had taken, ironically, not exercise science related, it was called Food and Sex. Which I know.
Love that.
What are we going to be doing in that? I thought it was going to be like this sexy class, but it was more like how gender influences like the foods that we eat. It was very interesting, but it was like what's it called? Like a humanities class, or
like
studies
elective or something.
I've been
algebra
for 2 years. One of those classes. But it was just a class that I had like taken to have to elective or whatever it is. Anyways, so very interesting class. But we had a speaker come in, and this was my very, very first introduction into health at every size. And I was gobsmacked. I was like, what is this person talking about? Like this cannot, and again, this was like within that period of me, like starting to realize that you don't have to be afraid of food and you shouldn't only be exercising to lose weight. But at the same time, we had this speaker come in and she was a master's student in fat studies. So like now we'd be like, oh, that's so cool. I wish that I could have taken those classes. But at the time I was like, that's not a thing.
Right.
Like, what is that?
Like you're perpetrating
ridiculous
chronic health concerns. Yeah. Like those.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I can't remember exactly like everything that she talked about, but basically she was saying that obesity is a social construct created to stigmatize people, and how weight isn't really the big health risk that we think it is. And like me, exercise science student, I'm like, what the hell is she talking about?
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous. I'm like so embarrassed for myself because I was like, what about diabetes? And she was probably just like, holy fuck. After a while she stopped taking my questions. She just like ignored me.
Anybody else?
Yeah, literally anyone.
Yeah.
Other than this girl. But at least that planted the seed in my mind that there was another way of thinking. Wow. And then from then on, like curiouser and curiouser, like the more that I was getting into this non-diet mentality, it's such a slow progression that it's almost like little seeds, like every so often along the road until you're finally able to actually buy the book that this very intelligent woman was talking about. And I think once I actually bought and read, I think I started with Body Respect, actually. Yeah. And then I went into Health at Every Size, but that's really when I was like, wow, I have been so wrong for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like how I felt when I started learning about intuitive eating. I was like, everything I thought I was doing to be healthy is actually not healthy. Like, I'm doing it in an unhealthy way. It's a really weird feeling. And I feel like those seeds that you were mentioning, I'm still having those. Like there are still moments when I realize like, oh, maybe that is like quote unquote problematic, or that's a little food rule that I might still have, or I still notice like biases that I have and things like that. And I always talk about how it's like, I really feel like it's a lifelong journey because we're always going to be inundated with diet culture. Like there's really no getting away from it. Like even when I feel like, oh, I've got this shit down, it's like, nope, we're going to make you think one more thing. Like, okay,
psych.
Yeah. Psych. Just kidding. Yeah. So, once you started to like read the books, then did that just start naturally transferring over to your work as like a personal trainer or online coach?
Yeah. So I was lucky too that like around that same time is when I actually started to get a certification to then become a trainer. But still, even then, like those first, the first year or even more, probably about the first year was still like, okay, so we're not going to weigh you or take your measurements, but instead you're going to send me progress photos. Yeah. So then it's still like, not there, not quite there at all. But again, like starting from what and another thing too, like those personal training certifications, whole other thing too, they're very similar to what we're talking about, our educations. Like, well, the fitness industry is one of the biggest perpetrators of diet culture and weight stigma and fat phobia and all of those terrible things. So again, like you, as a trainer, and this is something that I try and remind myself when I get mad at strangers on the internet, is that you only know what you know. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you're doing the best you can with the knowledge that you have at the time. And again, too, like it's hard not to be hard on yourself, to think like, oh my God, I can't believe that I asked people to send me photos of their bodies. And then you kind of cry inside a little bit. But again, like, you're not doing it anymore. Yes. You know better. Yeah. And you're not harming those people potentially anymore. So where was I going with that?
Yeah. Just how it like started showing up in your work. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. And so like you can almost see, like you can see the transition to like as I've started my career and also going further and further into a non-diet approach, like really how that's kind of led me to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes time too, and it's difficult because it is still so different from
Mm-hmm.
the mainstream. So there's lots of like, okay, so I seem to be the extreme minority here of talking about this type of fitness and these things. Like it's like a lot of doubting yourself, but I think
Mm-hmm.
you have to come around to the fact of like remembering how you felt yourself when you were in that space. And lots of clients too, like the longer I do this, the majority of my clients are people who have had very negative relationships with food in their bodies because of mainstream fitness culture. So, you know, just reminding yourself that you are helping people,
Mm-hmm.
even if there are still so many people who aren't in that same camp as
Mm-hmm.
you and I.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you do a really good job of like showing compassion for other people and yourself during those moments, because I think sometimes in the anti-diet, non-diet space, like there's a lot of like shaming people who haven't woken up to diet culture.
Yeah.
And I feel like the exact same mindset that you have about it. Like they really don't know better. Like I really can't hate on them that much. I mean, I can still be really aggravated, but if they truly don't know better and they think that they're making a difference, you know? So yeah, I think that compassion piece is really important, both to show ourselves like past versions of us and what we might have, recommendations we might have had or whatever, but also for other people who haven't yet come around to the idea, just haven't woken up to it, is kind of what I say. So I love that mentality you have.
Other trainers though, now I feel like there is so much more information out there that I do hold them to a much higher standard than just your average person, where it's like, you should know better. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of to that point now where the information is there. Like this isn't 2010 where like you think that you need to, I don't know, eat a Quest bar instead of a freaking brownie and then cry yourself to sleep. Like the information is there and these people are choosing not to see it. So I find that to be quite frustrating, because again, we know the harm that can be done from it. So it's kind of a matter of like, sometimes I reach out to people if I see something very problematic and be like, this is wrong. This is why it's wrong. And if they are open to learning why, great. But if they push back and they're like, nope, you're wrong, it's like, cool.
Your time will come.
Cool chat. Like, you know what I mean? There's only so much you can do with that. But so I find that now to be kind of the most difficult thing to navigate, like on social media and even in the industry, because like, as you can imagine, I'm sure there's a lot of people in my industry that don't like me and don't like the message that I have. Whatever.
Yeah, you're helping people though, you know, and there's some people who will resonate with different messages, and that's fine, but you're obviously making a difference with those that you work with. And don't ever change, because you crack me the fuck up. Like, love it so much. I love the way you get your messages across. Love it. Yeah. So when we're recording this right now, it's December, what is it? The 16th, 17th of December. And when this episode comes out, so listeners, when you are hearing this, it's going to be towards the end of January. And we wanted to talk a little bit about New Year's resolutions, new year, new me, all of that. So just to start off, tell me about like your experience with folks around this time of the year, like whether it's old past clients, current clients, or just what you hear. What's the typical approach to like a quote unquote New Year's resolution that you see when it comes to fitness?
Yeah, so huge shit show around this time of year. Like this is definitely the hardest time of the whole entire year to maintain a good relationship with like both your body, with exercise, with the food that you're eating, because there is so much pressure to be dieting, to be trying to lose weight, to be trying to look a certain way. So of course that's going to influence a lot of people moving into the new year with that strong messaging around like, oh, you want to get healthy? Well, this is what you need to do to get healthy. When in reality, we know all of those things can actually do the opposite, but much more on that later.
Yeah.
So what we see a lot is like very, very aggressive lifestyle changes. Again, with this mentality that in order to improve your health, you need to be doing something drastic. And that's really not the case. You can improve your health by taking very small steps. But again, that's the transformation, right? That people are being kind of seduced by. And that's when you'll see like so many of the before and after photos, really kind of planting these seeds in your mind that you need to be a completely different person in order to improve your health. So that is something that unfortunately is still like very popular and is really influencing people's decisions. And you see people go like from 0 to 100. So maybe someone hasn't been super active. They're like, okay, new year, new me. I'm going to start going to the gym 6 times a week. I'm going to completely change the way that I'm eating. I'm going to be cutting out all the stuff in my life. And it's just not sustainable. Like we know that to be true. So what is most likely to happen is they might sustain that for a short period of time. And then they're going to crash and burn. And then not only are they going to crash and burn, they're going to feel like, oh, well, I tried to get fit. I tried to get healthy. I can't do it. It's not for me. I'm not going to do anything. And that's not what we want as health professionals, right? We want people to improve their health and lead healthy lives. And having this mindset of the only way to do that is to be super intense is just not serving anybody. So much better approach is to take small steps, add in rather than take out. There's no reason why you should be cutting out entire food groups or types of food from your diet. Yeah. Unless, for like an allergy or religious reason. But basically the more like the further away this lifestyle change is from your current lifestyle, the less likely you're going to be to stick with it for any significant amount of time.
I love that. The further away it is from your current lifestyle, the shorter, I just butchered it, but whatever.
No, you got it.
In my head, I was like, that shit's good. Like, I'm going to definitely have to, take a clip of that and post it on the internet, but I already forgot. The further your new lifestyle is away from your current lifestyle, the less sustainable it is.
Exactly.
Something like that. That was good. That's so important. So when you think about people getting active, like in the new year, or even maybe they started off the new year with one of these drastic programs and that crash and burn mentality happened, or, it's not really even just a mentality. There's like the mental side of it, but there's also like physically, like people get injured or they just literally wear their bodies down. They get sick, like all of these things. What would you say are some really good steps to try, like for somebody that wants to get more active or focus on their health more? Like what might be some of those smaller steps that would be, obviously it would be tailored to their lifestyle depending upon where they're at, but what would be some that you might recommend starting with as a smarter approach to it compared to the typical New Year's resolution approaches?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important to like take a realistic look at your lifestyle and think what makes sense for adding in, say it is more movement. So for example, like we live outside of like the town that we're in, it's probably like a half-hour drive. So I basically only work out at home because that's what makes most sense for me and like my schedule and my daily life. Whereas, someone might be like, I want to get fit. I need to start going to the gym. Well, the gym's a half-hour drive each way. You're taking 2 hours out of your day. Like, again, maybe you'll be able to do that for a little bit, but absolutely after a while, you're going to be like, this is ridiculous. Like I can't take 2 hours out of my schedule to get a workout in. So I think that's really important. And then again, too, thinking like, how much time can I actually fit in for a workout? We have this idea that we need to be working out for an hour at a time. I don't even work out for an hour at a time. So it's kind of like looking at your schedule, what can we put in for a chunk of time that's going to be manageable, that's going to be realistic, always starting off smaller and then working your way up too. So maybe you're starting with 15 minutes of doing whatever your preferred type of exercise is. Do that maybe once or twice a week. get into a routine of that too. And if that feels manageable, then bumping up. So that's something that I'll always do with clients when we're first starting out, because again, that 0 to 100, if you're not used to working out and all of a sudden you're working out 5 times a week, not only is that dangerous, like you're saying earlier, physically in terms of increasing your risk of injury, it's just way too much.
Yeah.
It's just way too much. Like it's just too different from your lifestyle, and it's going to burn you out, not only physically, but mentally as well. So, being realistic with what you can fit in, how you're exercising as well too. So like another thing, going back to this idea of people have this idea of like, this is what I should be doing. And in reality, it should be more like, well, what do you actually want to be doing? Like, how many times do you hear like, oh, I want to get fit, I'm going to start training for a marathon. Yeah. It's like, do you like running?
Yes.
Like,
oh my God. The amount of times I have had this, I work with college students, and so many of them will come in and they'll be like, especially during like the summertime or, springtime. And they're like, I want to know how I can like train for a 5K or a 10K or whatever it is. And I was like, okay, well, how do you like to move? Like I start there, or I ask, do you even like to run? They're like, no, I hate it, but I think it's what I should do. It's like, no, like you don't have to do that. That's only going to make you hate exercise, and make a negative association. So the amount of times I've been told that, it's like, let's not do that. Turn away from that thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And another thing that's tricky too, though, is that like a lot of people who have had difficult experiences with exercise and have only been using it as a method to change their body, is that they might not actually know what exercise they enjoy. Like we hear that a lot when people are talking about like intuitive movement. And it's like, I don't even know what kind of exercise I like to do because I've had such bad experiences in the past, or you've only been using it, again, as a method to like burn calories. And it's like, my idea of working out is going on the treadmill for 45 minutes. And that doesn't make me crazy you know what I mean? Like that's not getting me excited to do that. So I suggest to people to like try and think back, like all the way back to like before they were working out to look a certain way or only to lose weight, and what kind of activities they enjoyed doing for a lot of people. And sadly, I think this is getting like earlier and earlier, how early diet culture is being injected into kids lives. But this could be like when you're in school. So for me, that was doing gymnastics. And while there was still, there's lots of issues there as well with having to look a certain way and it being an aesthetic sport and all that stuff. For me, that was really like, I was doing it because I loved to do it. I wasn't doing gymnastics as an 8-year-old because I wanted to lose weight. You know what I mean? So thinking back to like, what kind of activities were you doing? Like, were you in an organized sport? Maybe you played volleyball or basketball in high school or whatever the case may be, and trying to find a type of exercise now that mimics that as an adult. So that could be like going back into a rec league, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you were a dancer. There's so many fitness classes. Again, I would suggest making sure that you're doing one by someone who is a non-diet professional. Yeah. Because if you are trying to heal your relationship with exercise, I do think it's very important to be being trained by someone with similar values. But there's so many types of exercise that really can mimic those things that you did and that you enjoyed before everything went to shit.
Yes, that is so true. And I think that that's probably so helpful to hear too, because it's really expanding what exercise is for people. Like for a lot of people, when they think about dancing, like that is fun. It's not exercise. It's like a fun activity, but it doesn't count as exercise. Or even I think about it with walking. So many times I'll meet with people and I'll be like, okay, so tell me, ask what's your current level of physical activity? And they say, oh, I don't do anything. And I'm like, do you walk on campus to your classes? Because again, I meet with students. Or do you walk from the east side to the west side, or from your dorm room to this building or that building? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's exercise. Like, I know that it may not technically fall into like the defined terms of being structured and planned and all of that, but it counts as physical activity. And there's ways that we can leverage those fun, more enjoyable, more like regular activities to increase our physical activity and not in a way that's going to literally like overturn our life in order to get more active. So I love that the way that you suggest different things to folks, and the going back in time to what do you remember enjoying last with movement? That's a smart question.
Yeah. And what you're saying too about like the majority of us are already fairly active. It's just that we have this idea in our minds of like, oh, well, this is what it means to be doing a workout. And we have that idea because that's how fitness is sold to us. Like a fitness trainer isn't going to make money off of telling someone to take the stairs more than the elevator. You know what I mean? They're going to tell you that you need to come to their class and pay for it if you want to get fit. And if you don't, too bad for you. You know what I mean? Is the mentality. But there's so many ways throughout your daily life that you can increase movement, and you don't even need to go to a gym. I know that seems like counterintuitive as someone who is a fitness professional, but that's just the truth. And especially if that's going to be more available to a person as well. Like we have to think about, you know, people's access to the gym, to equipment, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you train, like your training isn't it called like Fit at Home? Like it is at home based workouts,
Fit from
right?
home. Yeah.
Fit from home. Yeah. So tell us more about, yes, I did. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So that was basically born out of, well, I was saying earlier that I work out purely from home. And I think like before the pandemic, there was this kind of like stigma around working out at home as if like you can't get a good workout in if you're working out at home. And we know that that's not true. And then so many people really left with the only option to work out at home and being like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? I only have one pair of dusty old dumbbells. How am I supposed to do a workout? So it was a lot of like educating people on how they can get a quick, efficient workout in at home. But again, like the big thing there is the motivation. That's always the biggest thing that people struggle with wanting to become more active is getting the motivation to do it. So in this case, I'm actually like doing the workout with you on your laptop or on your phone or however you're watching it. So that can be really helpful for people to kind of get a little bit more motivation to want to do it, because I understand it can be difficult to just make yourself do a workout, especially if you don't know even what to do or like how to do it safely. So watching someone perform, but also being able to do it like at your own pace is really important as well. So in all of my workouts, they're all like timed intervals. So it'll be like 30 seconds jumping jacks or 30 seconds squats or whatever the case may be. And that person can choose how quickly they want to do it, or if they want to take things more slowly as well. So I think it starts to build a bit more knowledge around like how to move more intuitively for you and not necessarily just doing what someone else is doing.
Yeah, that timed component is really good. Yeah, I think the fact that you're like doing the workout with people, it adds a level of accountability, you know, which can help boost motivation. I'm also thinking, because again, I feel like people get really motivated around the new year because of all the hype out there. Like it's just the timing, like, yeah, I'm going to take on a new challenge, which is like, I'm all for goal setting, love it, but a more sustainable approach is great. So I also like that you brought up the motivation piece. I'm wondering if you have any other like tips or nuggets of motivation help for people who might be listening. Like what are other ways they can motivate themselves to get started with fitness?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think like the one thing that's really holding people back from being motivated is that their main motivation or wanting to do it is to change their body. So in a way they think that like, oh, well, if I want to look like this, that's really going to motivate me to want to work out. But it's actually not motivating you at all because it's coming from such a negative place. You know what I mean? Like you're already starting square one with this idea, this belief that your body isn't good and that you need to change it. Like that's not motivating. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to feel, any workout you're doing with that mentality is just going to feel like a punishment. And obviously this is like so much easier said than done, but really making sure that you are exercising for reasons other than wanting to change your body is going to increase your motivation and your adherence like exponentially. So I always really suggest focusing on like performance goals over aesthetic goals. And that's something that we utilize in Fit from Home as well. So at the end of every month, we do like little fitness testing. So it'll be like,
cool.
how many, so it'll be like, you do as many kneeling push-ups as you can within like 45 seconds. So you have that, you write that down, and then we do it the next month. And then you're able to see how you've progressed. And I find that to be one of the biggest motivators, because you're actually able to see tangible progress that's outside of any physical changes that may or may not have happened. You know what I mean? And it just like fills you with so much pride. It makes you excited to want to continue and see what else you're capable of. So if you struggle with motivation and you haven't been tracking your progress, and by progress, it's really important to keep in mind that I mean like progress that has nothing to do with weight changes or measurements or photos. So purely performance, like how many reps you're able to do, how much weight you're able to lift, how far or how fast you're able to run if you're a runner, if you're one of those. I'm just kidding. So I find that to be a really, really big motivator.
Yeah. I think that is so important. Measuring progress in ways other than the scale. And also like what you mentioned, doing something that you enjoy from the get-go. Like, even if it's not strength training, we don't have to start with strength training. We can start with a walk around the freaking block, and the next week, can we go a little bit farther or walk a little bit longer? So I love that. Starting with something you enjoy, not measuring progress based off of what you look. And then I also like that accountability piece that you added in. I love that you do like fitness testing at the end of each month.
Yeah.
I don't know if like not that I've talked to a lot of like online trainers, but I love that so much. I feel like I've never heard of other folks doing that. So I love that that component is baked in with it, and that you get to like celebrate each other and everything. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's super fun. And for a lot of people, and especially women who have been working out, again, like primarily with the goal to look a certain way, like they might not have had that experience where they're actually trying to improve their strength and increase their strength and actual measures of fitness, because it has been so aesthetically focused. So I think that can be a huge turning point, as it was for me, like I was saying earlier, with joining CrossFit and finally like knowing, having these tangible numbers, like this is what I'm able to deadlift. I'm going to try and, do even more. And it's just is such a game changer.
I work with a student who they are in like a women in weightlifting or women in strength training group on Facebook. And I have no idea what group this is, but they get a lot of motivation, and it's very empowering for them to be able to log on there and just see women doing badass shit, like lifting weights and celebrating strength training. So I can also see how that like fitness testing component and everything can be really empowering for women who, for many of us, have been told like the smaller, the better, the quieter, the better, like the weaker, the better, so I love that empowering component in it also.
Yeah, absolutely. And that community is so important as well. And yeah, all of those things are going to be so helpful.
Yeah. I was just thinking, so you mentioned that you were in the very beginning that you had been in Mexico for like 3.5 weeks. That also brought to mind this idea that so many people worry about maintaining their fitness while they're like on vacation. I'm curious, like what that was like for you, because it's so fresh. Yeah. Like you literally just got back a few days ago.
For sure. And I had a post planned when I got back, talking about exactly those same things. So you'll get a little sneak peek here. Ooh. But basically I was going to say, basically it was going to be about how, like, when it comes to working out on any type of vacation, like it should always be and I want to, and not and I have to. And I think that's when you can really like decipher your relationship with exercise as well. Because I remember so many trips going away and just feeling like this extreme pressure, like I need to be getting my workouts in. I need to be working out the exact same way that I have been. I'm going to lose all my progress if I don't. And a huge part of that was also fear around what it might do to my body, like changing my body differently too. So what's been huge for helping me get away from that mindset again is really letting go of like my body needs to look a certain way. That is like the biggest key in not even improving your relationship with exercise, but food too. Like those things are affected so heavily by your desire to look a certain way. So really letting go of that, accepting that bodies are okay. It's okay if they change, they're meant to change. And also like separating my, I guess, self-worth from not even just like the way I look, but from my level of fitness too. And I know that's tough on another level, like being a trainer, where it's like, oh, you're a personal trainer, you should be super fit all the time. Well, it's like, I'm also a regular person.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm a human under all this muscle.
Yeah. Not a robot.
Yeah.
Like so that's another thing too. And I think like, you know, anyone who follows me knows that for me, like my healthy lifestyle isn't just about how many squats I can do. Like it's so much more than that. And that's really the smallest part of it. So that's really helpful. I think there are some major red flags. Like if you are on a vacation, if you are, you know, it's all about the intention, right? Like it's kind of similar to like intuitive eating. Like eating a green salad doesn't necessarily mean that you're dieting, you know what I mean? It means you're eating a salad. So like working out on vacation, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's, you know, anything suspicious going on there, but depending on what your intention is. So again, like if you are feeling like you have to work out to maybe like compensate for different eating habits throughout your trip, that's something to look out for. If you are missing out on like different activities or like experiences that you could be doing on that vacation to work out, again, that's another red flag. And if you're working out because of a fear of changes happening to your body, because all of those things are really going to, especially the fear of changing your body, is going to contribute to like a resentment of exercise as well. So making sure that it's something that you want to do, not like you feel like you have to, and also understanding that like there's this really big fear of taking any time off of fitness, that like if you don't work out for 2 days in a row, you're going to like lose every piece of muscle in your body. And that's
you're just gonna wither away. 2 days too long.
Yeah, exactly. So in reality, it takes much longer than people realize to actually lose a significant amount of muscle mass or their fitness level. Like we're talking like weeks of complete inactivity, like bedridden. So you're fine if you take a week off of your regular routine. And again, just going back to, and so what if your fitness level decreases a little bit? Like it doesn't mean that you're a worse person. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy of, you know, good things. It just means that you can do slightly less push-ups, and that's totally fine. But again, it just goes back to this toxic fitness culture of like, fitness is my life, like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, no, there's literally everything else is more important. And I'm a trainer. So.
Yeah. I totally agree with everything that you just said. And I think with the idea of like losing muscle mass and all of that, like I think a really good example of it was for so many people who didn't work out like during the like lockdown situations, who like didn't work out at home. Like I know I literally have like a partial CrossFit gym at home because we used to be very big into CrossFit. We have a second garage and we went all in. And now I don't, Tyler uses it. I don't, but I remember I posted like during the pandemic, and I was still able to like just do, I hadn't been working out at all. I just didn't feel like it because of all the shit that was going on. And I was still able to like squat the same amount as before. And it was like, just to show people like, you haven't lost it all. I totally understand the fear that you're experiencing, but I promise you it's still there. And so I think that is such a good point for people, and like all the things that you're going to be missing out on if like on this vacation or on this trip, if you are focusing solely on getting your workout in, it's not going to be worth the money. You're wasting so much money.
No.
You know?
Oh yeah. And like you think back to like all the vacations and even all the holidays, like so many times when you should have been enjoying yourself with friends and family were basically just like tainted by your fear and like guilt and anxiety around like, oh, well, I didn't get a workout in before Christmas dinner. Like, oh, I'm eating so much more than I usually do. And like, I don't mean to say that like insensitively, because that was me as well, but just to like help people realize that they're missing out on so much of their life.
Mm-hmm. And I really like what you said about like, so what? So what if you do gain some weight, or what if you can't do as many push-ups? Like, so what? You know, it's like at the end of the day, you're not, unless it's like impacting your ability to work or something, you know, like if you're CNA and you have to like lift people up, like in hospitals, like I get that, but so what if you can't do as much? I love that you mentioned that. Like, it's not just because you can't do as many push-ups or you can't lift as much weight, because that happens. It doesn't mean that you're any less of an amazing human or anything like that. So you're not, you're no less worthy. So I love that part of what you mentioned too.
Yeah. And then you can even see it too as like a new goal to work towards. Like, you've got yourself to this point of being at your current fitness level, like you can get back to that place as well. So you can almost use that too as a new level of motivation to be like, oh, well, maybe I have decreased a little bit in some things that I was able to do before. Well, let's work towards getting there again. And again, those goals are so much better than trying to lose weight, trying to look a certain way, trying to just burn calories.
Yes. Oh, I love everything that you say. Seriously, I just want to I just want to shout it all from the rooftops. You're so great. So before I let you leave, tell us where we can find you online, your website, all the things.
Yeah. So I'm always on Instagram. It's a bit of a problem, but we'll just we'll deal with that another day.
Roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just my name at Onysko. That's where you'll find a lot of information about my coaching. I do one-on-one coaching as well as the Fit from Home that we were talking about. So that one's more personalized to more specific goals, has more accountability, and I make the workout like completely personalized to the individual. And then, my Instagram is just a whirlwind of emotions. We talk about fitness, we talk about
it's so real,
improving your relationship.
It is so real. Like, you are incredibly relatable, and I think that is like why I connected with you and why I wanted you to be on the podcast so much, because you're who you are. Like, exactly who I'm talking to today is who I see on Instagram. Like, and I appreciate that.
That's
like,
good.
You're funny. You got good humor. I like a good sense of humor too. So it's good. Oh,
yeah. So that's where you'll find it all. I love, chatting with people, especially if you are wanting to learn more about how to kind of get into this lifestyle that you and I are all about. Or if you like to share your rage about Sex and the City being spoiled, I'm also very down to discuss if you'd like to hatch a plan to take down Self magazine.
So freaking funny. I need you to go back and save those stories and then like make a highlight reel. Like the plan.
And that was when Kyle realized he was married to an insane person.
Yeah. Tyler's probably had a lot of those moments. We haven't even tied the knot yet. He's probably hearing me right now, and he's like, "Shit, I gotta run! Like, time to get out."
Well, you gotta save you gotta save the best moments for after it's too late.
That's smart. Yeah, like he can't get away once we're
follow me
wed.
For more marriage advice.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you cracked me up. Well, thank you so much. Seriously, loved having you on. Loved connecting with you. I'm really excited to share your insight with people. I think it's going to come at a really good time of the year. Both thinking about like New Year's stuff, but also at the end of January, like I think a lot of people might be preparing for this like spring break vacation time, which happens, in like March, April-ish. So I think what we talked about regarding like vacations will be really helpful for them in preparing for that as well. So you are amazing. Totally. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of GTB. If you're enjoying this podcast, feel free to head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate, review, and subscribe. You can also share this podcast on Instagram and tag me at Give 'em the Bird Podcast. I will see you back here next week for another episode, but in the meantime, go give 'em the bird.